what scales is habits because they remove friction between you and your partners, you and your clients, you and the opposition of, on the other side of a transaction. So habits are what create a smooth process, right? And so whether that's prospecting or execution or follow-up, any of it, right? These are the best habits, the daily habits. And I can give you like four that I live by, right? So if you were going to take notes, this would be where to take those notes. So one real estate conversation a day, not a text, not a social media post, a real conversation.
Hey everyone, Shaune Corbett here, Real Estate Success DFW. We have got Bart Gurley. How are you, Bart?
I am doing amazing, Shaune. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. So Bart and I have known each other off and on for the last couple of years. We've had events and things we've been at. I know my first in-depth conversation with him was probably sometime last summer, I think is when it was. I think you and I met at an event and then we started kind of talking and we realized that we're in a lot of the same spaces. We're
Yeah.
trying to help other agents have success through different ways. And we're going to talk about some of those things. But I know that's where we really kind of made that connection. And then I realized that, Bart sold quite a bit of real estate and he's built a business on Sphere, which most of you know, if you know me, that's always been my focus is building that Sphere. But I know Bart wants to share a little bit more about that and some other ways that we can help. So if you're ready, Bart, let's start with the very first thing I always like to start with is why in the world are you selling real estate?
Boy,
I always
boy, what
catch
an
people
open.
off guard with that one, don't I?
You did just slap me upside the head. Wake
Yeah.
up. Okay. So, you know, I want to demystify something. I have a history degree, Bachelor of Arts in History. I don't have some like business degree or anything like that.
Well,
I know, but it's what I loved, right? It's like it's what I could get a degree in, for goodness sakes. I was pretty immature and I haven't changed a whole lot, if I'm honest. But I really got my license when I was like 23, 20, yeah, 23, I think is how old I was. And really just because I didn't know what else to do, if I'm honest. And so after a year, I think I had made like, slightly under 40,000 in GCI back in the late 90s, um, which, that basically puts you in the running for rookie of the year at most brokerages your first year. By the way, the average sales price was pretty stinking low back then. I think probably 135 to 170 or something like that. So, it's not horrible, right? I wasn't horrible, but
yeah, I'm thinking today that's probably 90 to 100,000.
I would think it's close.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, I just the, I loved being the guy. Like I loved being able to give people advice. Um, I'm trying to remember when I was new, I probably was seeking my mentor's advice on things that I didn't know the answer for or how to answer them right back then. But I loved being able to help others, right? To give them advice to make decisions that were pretty darn big decisions, a lot of money on the line. And I just liked that role, right? I liked being an authority to serve somebody else. So that core thing, I could have done anything. I could have done that in financial services or whatever, right? I could have, but I just happened to be in real estate, and that was just a connection in within my family. Nobody licensed, no like real estate brokerage or anything like that. Purely just property owners. But that's kind of how I got involved and decided, I think this is me, and every year has been about the same. Just like I think I still like doing this.
Well, and I know that you're started in real estate. I know you've gotten into lending
Yes.
and of course you've gotten into the coaching opportunity. You've been doing this a long time. You've shown success. You have consistent, scalable things that you do that anybody can do and grow bigger. It
Yes.
creates opportunities for us to be able to educate and help others.
Yep.
And I do love that aspect. We're going to come back to coaching in a little bit, but let's talk about a couple things about the agent.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, of course.
so people have different perspectives. There's a lot of negative press about real estate agents and things like that. How do you view the role of an agent for, clients, or how do you see it?
So, I mean, first of all, I want to apologize in advance if I offend anybody. And I'm not, that's not my meaning or my intention. So I'm just going to throw that out there. But I but I'm guilty. I see it in myself is why I'm able to say this, right? It's usually I was the reason or the original source of the bad occurrences or situations or experiences either I experienced or my clients experienced, right? So that was just learning the skills. And so over time, I'd say the first realistically about 5 years, because there's an arc of you know, learning, execution, failure, and defining what the experience is you want to have with your customers, right? I mean, we are selling houses, but we're in the people business, right? We are just in the medium of homes, but we are in the people business. And so that one realization should be able to help a lot of agents focus on the important thing, and that's the people, right? What do they want? What are their goals, their needs, all that stuff, capabilities, and that drives exactly what, a first touch should look like, right, for clients, from my experience. And so the role of an agent is very simple, right? I help agents think like a realtor, which means you think like your client, try and empathize with their fears, concerns. You filter to make sure you're working with the right people, right? Can I serve this person effectively? Do we have personality conflicts, things like that? And two, I mean, go and execute what you offer, right? That's the three key things that agents have to develop the first 5 years to go in the process mindset, right? And so I feel like most agents, they never get beyond just, you know, the end of their nose. It's like commission next. And that's fine, right? I mean, you do learn things that you just inherently kind of wing it. But those things, if they're not written down, don't become a process. And so your experience that the customers get varies each time, regardless of their desires or investor versus owner occupied, any of that stuff. But your core brand is built around a process. And when you don't have a process, you don't have a brand.
You
That's what
can't
I,
be consistent without systems and processes. Every person's experience is different because you have a different step every single time.
that's right. And
So you
that's,
really need to have, they call it SOP is a big word I keep hearing for the last
yes.
year or so, which is your like standard of operations or standard processes that you use for every single thing that you do. You should
Yep.
do it even if you're a one-man show.
Yeah.
You still should work and make sure you check every checkbox so that way the experience is common for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about this. If you act like an assistant, the client will act like a boss. That's as simple as I can make it. You're creating the way you're being spoken to and your value by not having a process because
You
they're
know, it's
looking to
interesting.
you.
Yeah, I've talked to people that are type A type people that are real aggressive, but I come at them. This is our first step. This is our second step. And they do what I tell them to do.
That's it.
You got to lead and show them why and where we're going. And you should always have a next step in every conversation.
I do want to, can I say something, Sean? Like you
Sure.
made me
Yeah.
think of something so the number one excuse I hear from agents about not doing this is they like to tailor the service to each client, right? And kind of that was what you were kind of speaking to. You have an A personality, accountant type, CPA, whatever. Like they love that structure. They need the information to process themselves. But even if there's somebody that doesn't need to go through all that, they still need to have the option to. And they need
Yeah.
to know that that's the way you operate so they can leave you alone. Like you just deliver. That means they're not calling you every day. They know you get it, right? And they know what you're trying to deliver. And that's in total alignment with what they define as success. That's it. That's the way it's unique by interviewing the client to make sure they're a good fit for you. You can deliver and meet their expectations because here's the reality. You're going to own the outcome whether you do it well or not.
That's true.
So
Yeah. And it's unfair to the ones that you think know everything that's going forward or feel like they've got it down. It's unfair to them to not experience the full experience.
yeah.
You
And
know,
by the way, Sean, just to be clear, I am not a systems like that doesn't come natural to me. I fought this for years, 4 years. The big red book that, back in the day, right? You hire your first assistant at a certain level of production and those things, and you learn to delegate and all those things. It's not like I don't know those things, but I didn't know how to implement. right? And I didn't, every time you take one step forward, you take two steps back, and that's the excuse to not change. And that's where most agents stay, regardless of production level. You could do 20, 30 million, and you could still be doing it, burning yourself out. And your family or your outside life is paying the expense of that.
Of
So
course.
anyway, yeah. So
Um, let me sum it up in this way because this is really kind of what hits everyone at home. Relationships will help us multiply our business if we treat our business like a relationship, or our client, our sphere of influence. The relationship will multiply our business, but the transactional side, or looking at them as a transaction, will stop it from multiplying.
that's right,
Right?
100%.
They're not going to add you to their reminder list. They'll say, okay, well, we got it done, checked all the boxes. It wasn't overwhelming for them, and they may forget you.
That's right.
And they certainly won't think about you, and you won't be top of mind when it's time for the next opportunity. So I know for sure I've been guilty in that space too. And I've closed over 500 houses. And I know there's plenty in there that, I mean, I close houses by text, never
Yeah.
even seeing the house, never even talking with the client on the phone. And we'll close it from start to finish through text because I thought that would be the way they wanted to do it. And it was easy. It was easy for them. It was easy for me. But they're not going to remember me. So,
And those, to your point though, I mean, those happen usually. My long-term clients that are my best clients that I try to replicate and duplicate are not that person, or at least they weren't on the first house. Now they got there where I don't need to talk to them. They just tell me what to go deliver and I go do it. That's a different animal if it's later in the relationship, but definitely the first time you need to show them and get to know them so you can actually deliver what their expectation is.
sure.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that's the role. The role is a decision advisor. That's the way I view myself is I frame decisions and I eliminate everything after you do some sort of initial consultation with a buyer or seller. I get their goals, I understand if they're reasonable, and then I am filtering to make sure I want to move forward with them. And then secondly, if I do, I'm outlining a plan, and anything that's not a part of delivering their goal does not even get mentioned. They only get the decisions that are required to obtain the goal. That keeps things clean, simple, and less, concern, fear that you're creating for this client that doesn't even need to know stuff that doesn't apply to them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did that a lot as a young age. I'd overeducate things that did not apply to them, and I would talk myself right out of a sale. Not because it was real, but because I just overeducated somebody and created so many options that they were indecisive. And that turns
Yeah.
into a stalled buyer. And that's where we find ourselves in this market right now for a lot of agents.
For sure. Yeah, there's a lot of analysis paralysis. They
Yeah,
overanalyze everything. Should I buy now? Should I sell now? What do I do? And we allow them to get really bogged down in the weeds and without seeing the bigger picture. You know,
seriously.
the market should not control your life. If your life is to move, then move. But
That's right.
but most of them are like, well, I'll lose this much money if I do it. No, you do what's good for you and your family, not because you can make another 10,000 waiting 2 years.
This is
There-
the core of the fiduciary responsibility that we sign up for when we have a representation agreement with them.
Sure. And let's talk a little bit about habits and
Yeah.
some of the things that make business much easier. Because I know that's one of your, one of the core things that you focus on is habits and things that you can do for all agents, and it makes their business much easier.
Okay. Man, you're speaking my love language. So, um, some of the stuff that I say sounds smart, but I love to keep it simple. At the end of the day, I do not overthink things. I just need to think simple. So habits are where the rubber meets the road for me and my business. And so what I find is hustle does not scale. I know your three kind of core things that you like to focus on in your business and your whole brand. Hustle is not going to scale. What scales is habits because they remove friction between you and your partners, you and your clients, you and the opposition of, on the other side of a transaction. So habits are what create a smooth process, right? And so whether that's prospecting or execution or follow up, any of it, right? These are the best habits, the daily habits. And so, and I can give you like four that I live by, right? So if you were going to take notes, this would be where to take those notes. So one real estate conversation a day, not a text, not a social media post, a real conversation. Clear next step language every time. Every time you have a conversation, you do not hang up that phone without a result. Like there has to be a next step or a result for the purpose of that call. This is what keeps you accountable to yourself, right? So fewer active clients and deeper service, right? There's a connection here to the business I know how to build and I coach to. It is not a cold calling transactional business. And everybody kind of says that, but my habits align with a core belief in the way I market. And there's a story I'll tell you later about this, but everything we teach connects, and it starts with these core habits. And then pre-decision coaching instead of post-decision cleanup, right? So you need to have resources once you've outlined your process for a buyer and a seller and that level of experience and detail and prep that you want to get them, build out the resources. So these habits, you're going to run into, you come up with a habit and you're going to realize that there's peripheral things that have to be in place to do this daily without getting stuck in Canva for 2 hours trying to create the resources you need to do the habit, right? So this is a process, but those four habits, right, from a high level view, conversation a day, clear next step language for every conversation, and that applies to your pipeline. Like your pipeline has a defined timeline and next step. And if they do not meet those, that's what pops up on my calendar and people are stalling. I know, first of all, I've notified that they're stalling in a certain part of the pipeline. And then two, I have an action recommended to either move them to the next step or move them out of the pipeline. That way they're not counted as potential revenue. They're follow up, right? So these are all built on each other, but basic habits and resources that back those habits up. So those four are what I live by.
I like that. And it's funny, some of these have strictly coached. Even for buyers, sellers, doesn't matter. Like, okay, so I've got a seller and we've gone every 3 weeks, nothing's moving. You're going to have a conversation with the seller every single week, and you're always going to have a next step. Hey, the next
Always.
step is we're going to make the price adjustment in 2 weeks. That's about the time period where we know if it's going to work or not, or whatever. I mean, having intelligent conversations and buyers, hey, we've gone through, we've looked at 6 houses. You haven't made a decision out of, all of them, then we need to reevaluate what we're doing here. Or when we're in the middle of the contract and the process is easy opportunity to say, hey, this is going to be the critical part of it. We're going to do the inspection period. We're going to look at problems and then have negotiation. And then the next step is always have a next step. Or and I want to talk about pre-experience coaching versus post chaos is what I called it.
Right. Yes.
But the idea is, experience can help us save a lot of time and energy with clients when we know you see things when they're going to start going off the rail. You feel it, you got the
Yeah, you
jive.
feel it.
You're not getting comfortable with what the other agent's saying. They're not giving you the confidence. Then you know that we've got some murky area coming that I
Yeah.
don't have that certainty. You might say after option period, we're generally about 95% we're closing,
Yeah.
right? Is a pretty high percentage if we get out of the option period. But if I get language like, hey, we're talking to the lender, we're working through this, and all of a sudden I start bringing down that confidence scale pretty quickly, and then we're going to have next steps.
Yeah.
Hey, it doesn't look like they're probably going to be able to close on time. Tell them up front as much as you can. So let's work plan B.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
I like all that. Fewer clients, deeper service. Really, really good idea. Most of us throw everything on the wall, text everybody, email everybody, and then the ones that are calling us, begging us are the only ones we're going to talk to. But maybe instead, the ones we're working with get to know all the reasons they're doing what they're doing, really get to deep dive into it. Um,
Man, they love it. Like even if like I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fail, Shaune, every day in some area. This will never be perfect, but my clients will never go looking elsewhere, my best clients, because they know that know, like, and trust, and I know how they think, I know what's important to them. That is what is kind of the insurance or the glue that keeps them to me. And so when I don't follow up or I have a personal thing that allows me not to like stay top of mind or something like that from a marketing standpoint, this is what maintains the client and they never go in play for you to go grab them ever.
yeah, yeah.
Like
And
I'm very
it's kind of
confident about this.
the relationship building creates the glue, right? That holds the
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah. Um,
So
why do transactions typically stall for agents?
Oh my gosh.
Right now it's especially a challenge, right? Because you got buyers that aren't making moves, you got sellers that won't drop price. There's things that we're not moving things forward and we're not getting things accomplished. Why do you think that transactions typically stall for agents?
You know, I can tell you right now, it's not the market conditions. It's not the market conditions.
Yeah,
So
that hasn't changed.
it's not the rates
Everybody
either.
can read it, everybody can see it. It hasn't
We,
changed.
we've
We
been
all
in we've
know.
been in this
Yeah.
situation. When I started, we were doing 8%, 7.5% first liens, and 12% second liens. 80 10 10 80 15 5 all day long. And by the way, closed plenty of business. So the rate is not the problem, and the market conditions are not the problem. The advisory position that you're being hired to do as an agent, not the practical scheduling showings, things like that. Like this is what they're paying for, is knowing how to read what their fears are, educate them on that, and make sure that they give you a nod back and then proceed and only proceed once that's happening. So it's a very methodical process. And I don't want to I overthink this. So I did this by habit for years. And only when I started writing it down did I really improve my close rate. And so to the point of like, I don't have deals that don't close, Shaune. Like, knock on wood, borrowing losing a job or a health or something like that. Like, I don't even, I just don't have them not close if I'm honest, ever. And I'd
Yeah, but
say,
it's because you set the right expectations and you know what you're looking into, right? I
well,
mean,
and
it's
hold on
experience.
real quick. There's
Sure.
something super key. And if I can I do this through a real quick story? And
Sure.
this is gonna like be very like not normal. So I got my lending license about 4 years after my real estate license, which was in the early 2000s. I started lending. So it morphed into this weird business where we have in-house lending now. A lot of times I'm handling all aspects of the transaction. And so what that means is I have two conversions happening in the same consult, initial consult. I have the real estate and I have the lending. And by the way, in the absence of value, what becomes the most important thing? The money, right? The money is always going to be vital to this process, whether it's cash or finance, doesn't matter. But I go through I call it a smart move financial analysis for any client, any prospect, any referral, period. And so we handle the money day one. And what that does is I am trying to find no's. I'm trying to find friction. I am trying to find where the sensitivity is for this specific client. Is that the equity from the net sheet that we do on their existing home before they even list it? And then we have variances on kind of our bracket high low. Then we do our quote on the new mortgage, and we have for extensions for college, planning, retirement, all that crap. And then we also go through what could affect this. Do we need 401k money? What can we borrow at that at? So every single one of these steps is in my consult for a buyer or a seller from day one. I am trying to get yeses literally all the way to the closing date from that meeting. So what happens is I'm establishing an accountability baseline. So when we get into the option period or we get into whatever part of the contract to close process, I already have a yes, and we're only trying to stay within those brackets because when they start getting shady or sideways, all I do is remind them of the literal written documentation they already approved, right? So that's why I never have people go sideways on me unless there's something we just don't know about in an inspection, like they have a $30,000 roof and nobody, whatever. Some of those things are just can't be helped on the property, but it's not going to be because of my client's lack of making a decision before they ever got there. And the money's the number one thing. And then I try to trip them up on other things. If I hear things like you talked about earlier, if I hear things or you hear where you're going to have friction, and I address
Of course.
those in conversation through stories about other people, right? It's never going to be them acknowledging this sensitivity about themselves. It's always going to be a story about a previous client, and it could be made up if I have to do it because I didn't close one recently. But I know the scenario, and I need them to respond to that hypothetical right now with no pressure and no money on the line, and then I walk them through it. So that's what I mean by pre-decisioning. Like this is a very structured conversation, but it's also tailored to the person's sensitivity. So that's how it's unique. That's why things stall and every single time. They're not doing good consults and they're not trying to find the no's at the initial consult.
No, they're focused on getting them in the car and showing them houses without really
That's it. And
understanding.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you wonder why they get their commissions shopped and they go to the lowest common denominator because you showed zero value.
Yeah.
And by the way, I take on an A-type personality in the relationship if it's a family or a spouse. Like I challenge that in that meeting between the two spouses. Because one, they're not going to make it awkward and fight in front of me, but we are going to flush that out to have a fun conversation about it. And I'm going to make them feel okay about it, that they're not abnormal, that I deal with this all the time. And what they're going to realize is they don't. So now I'm an authority, and then I get the keys to lead the entire transaction from there on out. I frame the decision on the questions, and then they just say yes or no. You're totally locked down on what we want. And if this gets us there, we trust you.
Sure. And there's so
And
many
that's the way my
aspects.
relationships roll because I
Yeah.
established that.
There's so many aspects in the real estate transaction that buyers and sellers don't know because they're not doing it every day. And I think that's a part of our experience, our mission is to give them that proper expectation. I always get analogies that come to me pretty quick when I hear things. I did HR for 10 years before I actually got into real estate. And in HR, we had something called an RJP, which is your realistic job preview. So if someone was applying for a job, what does that look like?
Oh, okay.
So we would take them to the job and show them typing reports or whatever the job was. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing every day. Is this something that you're comfortable doing? Would you feel comfortable doing this for, at least more than 6 months? Because it doesn't do us any good if you're only here for a few months. We do them real estate job preview so that way they could really understand what the experience is. When we're talking to buyers, here's the realistic job preview of how it's going to work, and here's the problems that we're going to run into, and this is the ways that we're going to get through it. And there's a lot of
Yep.
things you can tell them up front so they're ready to go when the time comes. Um, most agents will
Yeah.
not get into the finances, and I realize you are because you're a lender, but most agents won't get into the DTI and the credit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I want you to speak to this.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Tell
this has
like
been a little
you know
bit
as
more
well as I do. That's not most agents.
Yeah, 99% of them don't even want to get into that space. They said, "Here's my lender partner; he'll answer all those questions." I'm in a new, platform, a new space now, and one of the things we really focus on is kind of pre-qualifying buyers. Like, I don't want to take someone in the car when they have, three car notes and they're making 4,000 a month, right? Like, let's get realistic about our DTI and our
Nope.
credit reports and stuff like that. I don't need to see it, but I need to have a conversation about it, and they need to know how realistic they are, and they're not putting themselves in a really difficult position or forcing this when it's not the right thing for them. And there are things that we can do as
Yep.
agents to educate and coach them even before they talk to a lender. There's no reason that we have to call a lender to answer all these questions. Be a source of good information. You're not going to actually qualify them. You're not writing the lender letter, but you can have some intelligent conversations about what DTI means, what income versus whatever debts you have, and what the credit scores are going to be to break those barriers. And if we're close, we've got credit report people.
Yep.
There are things that we can do to help you prepare yourself, and that's how we're in it for the long run, and we're here to have you have the best success, get the best rate, get the best term, however that works out. So that's just something that most agents don't
Yeah.
get into.
Yeah. Well, and like what does that look like if you're not a loaner, which is not like you said, 99% agents. Well, one, do you have an interview process to make sure that your preferred partners can deliver the experience that you're offering? Like you have a match, right? So you want to do a net sheet on the sale of their house and you want a pre-approval and a sample estimate on the price point that they want to buy. Like not just a pre-approval. I want a copy of the actual like estimate, and if we need to do one like at 800 versus 700, right? I mean, whatever the scenario is, like those things need to be in writing, and I need a copy of those as an agent. And then you're going to have that same conversation, even if you're not the lender, right? We're going to try and find a spot that could end up compromising the outcome for your client. It's all about the client. It has nothing to do with you getting a commission. That's the problem. That's the problem is agents don't realize is like your fiduciary is to make sure you're referring them to a lender that's going to deliver the outcome that you're saying that you can deliver. And
Right.
obviously, we're not responsible for the outcome, but we can do our very best to make it as good as close as we can.
All right. One other
So
question.
anyway,
What is the key concept for 2026, which is the year we're in? doing this interview. What every seller should
Oh,
know. Or really, I mean, it's not even this market. It could be any slow market where homes aren't moving. What do you feel like is a key concept for 2026 for every seller should know?
so I totally agree. It does not matter what year it is. So we can even omit that part. It doesn't matter what year, it's any market. But positioning for a seller always beats pricing. So always. The buyers are there, right? They're not absent. They're out there right now, high inventory right now. But it doesn't matter, even if it's switched, like we in the pandemic. It doesn't matter, right? Positioning always beats pricing. Um, Homes don't sell because they're listed; they sell because they're clearly positioned against the alternatives. That's it. We price homes against other options that are active. Homes that are sold give us a guide, but positioning that thing as active with that meets condition and the other options that are likely what the buyers are going to see. And so looking at those actives are right now vital. Um, and so let me see if there's any. I got notes here. Selling the chasing reductions in the middle of it never works. Like your optics on that for your client experience is horrendous. Like I'm confident enough and I have enough conviction, right? Shaune, we talked about this a little before we came on. I have enough conviction in my ability to get like a bracketed ten to $15,000 bracket of where a home's likely to sell and why, and be able to defend it. I do that for my clients because that's exactly the same scenario I'm going to say to the other agent when they call and the buyer. Because 99% of the time, the buyer's agent is not as skilled at their craft as I am. So I'm feeding them the lines that I want them to parrot to their client. And 99% of the time they do it. Sorry, but they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a very clear strategy that I use for my clients' benefit. So my
I'm with
emails
you.
are,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I bring those agents, like I am not adversarial whatsoever. I bring the other side just as close because they're serving their client just like I am. And even if they're not and they're transactional, it still affects the experience for my client. So I'm going to do my best to have a positive influence on that other agent and help them serve their client at some level, right? I
Sure.
mean, we're all
No.
using the same data. How we interpret it is how it's changing.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you and I use the same language. It's funny. I've had these conversations a number of times when I list houses. I just refer to my seller. Said I'll have comps on there, but the reality is they have no effect on what our current buyer sees on the market. They don't care what sold 6 months ago. They're only
No.
looking at what they see available right now, and that's what we need a price based on. And we need to beat them. If we don't beat them, then we're racing to the bottom.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
we're not paid to list the houses, right? We're paid to sell them,
correct.
right? And so at the end of the day, they need to hear the truth about what you're experiencing. And otherwise, guess what? You go their route. Now the inmates are running the asylum, and you're still going to own the outcome when it doesn't sell and you're hammering them for reductions. Okay? That's it. Like you're still going to own the outcome if you're silent, but you're being
Yep.
paid to give your advice. So give it. Quit being so worried about losing the opportunity because you're held hostage because you have so few opportunities. Like do it well and you'll have so many opportunities you have to choose.
If you overlist, everybody loses.
Everyone.
Everyone loses. The stress of selling, the stress of showings, the stress, your net's going to be dropped and
Yeah.
you're going to be working 3 times as long and hard for the same amount of money. So
Yeah.
you lose as an agent. It's not worth it.
Well, and Shaune, let me just make this clear statement. Like I know we're into a lot of like kind of big questions here, but if you understand what I'm primarily about is the foundational elements that are not being taught in our industry. I didn't learn them at my brokerage when I started. I didn't learn them at the other brokerage I went to. I didn't learn them when I was an independent broker, and I didn't learn them when I got my license. So uh, the skill, like think about Michael Jordan, right? Like all the free throws that he shot that nobody ever saw. You want results for your customers, which ultimately ends in a positive thing for you in a form of profit, right? For your business. Ultimately, you have to have happy customers, and so doing the skills and the research for market data, doing a process. That is what, I mean, go to Chick-fil-A and get a sandwich today. Do you think it's going to be the same as it was yesterday? Why? There's a process on the product that they're delivering. Most agents have no product. They have not, they don't even have rules they live by. They're just living by other people's rules, which is why they get such up and down income, right? Take control over your business. Like Shaune, you're going to be the most effective at selling people just like you. So the exercise that all agents could do is go think about the last time you bought a car or you bought a house or bought anything over $1,000. Think about what motivated you. Think about how you negotiated. Think about what you ultimately end up buying and what worked and what didn't work. That's what you need to refine in your own process and apply that to home sales. And then speak like that to your customers. You're going to attract people without a single dime being spent on marketing, just going about life and being yourself. And by the way, when you do service and realize the people and delivering their outcome is the primary goal, you can turn your effort up to 11 and you'll never feel like you're selling or pressuring somebody ever. All you're doing is presenting the most likely decisions they need to make to deliver what they want.
That's
I get
good.
I get like really like convicted about this because it's like we overcomplicate this thing so much.
I tell you what would be a real benefit to agents out there is to have you talking to them and coaching them through those same experiences. You like that?
Oh, that's pretty good. I like
Yeah.
that, Shaune.
So, I mean, and I know your focus isn't just about getting clients, but having better clients,
Yeah,
and
always.
having better relationships and how to do that. So, I know you've got some coaching opportunities, and I know you're in several of these spaces. But you want to talk briefly about what they can do or where they can go in order to be able to benefit from your coaching services.
Yeah, yeah. So our website, maverickrealtynetwork.com, like they can go there and it'll have everything they want to know about it. Any events that we'll have upcoming will ultimately be on there, but we do an 8-week coaching program. It's small groups and then some one-on-one elements to it. And in that 8 weeks, we will transform what an agent, what their business looks like and their mindset about how they view their own business. But I have seriously not had I mean, we do interview just to make sure we're in alignment, right? I do the exact same thing that I've done in real estate with agents, right? I'm still trying to deliver the outcome the agent wants. I want to make sure it's realistic. I want to see where we're going to have resistance, and then I'm going to give honest assessment. So when we interview somebody about coaching, we do a 15 to 45 minute just one-on-one and hear where the agent is from production, who their target audience is, all these things we learn about their business, and then we do not sell. Like we hang up and we go think about like how can we get the result based on the tools this person has, right? And then we'll present that. And whether that goes on to coaching, they're going to get the answer we produce either way, right? And then so ultimately it may end up in coaching, but otherwise, like go to the site, like check it out. I am giving the information that I use every day for my clients away free. This is it transforms families. Like having this as a job, which I obviously don't view it as a job. I view it as like my purpose. Um, but it's been great to me. And I'll finish with this. The business that I coach, I would like to share with everyone because I've been doing this about 30 years. Um, I spend next to $0 on marketing, like very close. Software to be operational and automations and things like that. But from a marketing standpoint, pure marketing, very little budget at all. And with that, uh, you know, easily without even picking up a phone for 12 months straight, I'll do 5 million in referrals without even like trying. And that's what this practice of foundational process, habits, and going deeper with clients and delivering that for these people, you're creating a very like joyful existence as a human being. Your family will be super stable. um, your conviction and confidence about how you just want to like drink it up. Like you just want to do it more and more. And so it behooves scaling to whatever level the agent decides, if I'm honest. Right. That's an individual's choice. But this is so counterculture to more leads, more marketing, more video. if you have a gap in this part of the foundation, in your people skills and your ability to facilitate the job, like this is called operational inefficiencies. And when you scale operational inefficiencies, you'll have at least a 30 to 40% impact on your profits. That's why agents don't make what they deserve. They don't have the foundational skills to scale, and they try to scale by they ignore this problem. That's why I have such a big passion about this. Nobody's teaching this. And I know, I mean, I've done a lot of the coaching programs from national people. It's not covered at all. So
Yeah,
that's why I
just
was there.
taking your sphere, going deeper with them, and creating, uh, becoming, their source for everything real estate. And most of us don't put enough effort into that. We're always chasing the next person.
Seriously, Shaune, like
I
I
sold a
know what
house,
my
you're
value
done.
is.
Yeah, you sell a house, right? I clock out, I'm done. And
Yeah.
then you go to the next transaction, and then it just becomes this chase for transactions instead of deepening the relationship.
Hey, how about this? Seasonality. Like we have tax protests coming in the spring. I challenge every agent, go look at every house you've ever sold. Go do a tax protest proactively without even asking and deliver that to your clients in whatever month, right? Go do it as a standard practice and offer it for free. That's the benefit from just working with me. And I will save you money. And we have AI nowadays. You can do that literally so easy, and not charge for it. It has nothing to do with that. You're trying to build somebody, oh, lifetime value of customer. Like I know ultimately doing business this way, every client that's a client for me is worth about 120 to $130,000 over their lifetime. That is that's for me. So if you have 100 of those or you have 200 of those, everyone is a prospect when I walk around out in the world. Like my sphere is everyone I possibly walk into because they all would love the kind of business I do. Now, we may have personality conflicts or we may have belief differences, and I'm not the best fit, and I don't need their business because they're going to hate doing business with me. And why would I want something that doesn't turn into $130,000? Because that's why I wouldn't get referrals from them. So why would I even do business with them? It's a waste of my time. If I
Yeah,
did it because it was a referral, I'd be a choice that I made knowingly.
I love it. Well, Bartlett, I got to wrap it up. We've gotten all the way to the end. We went long. I appreciate you. For those of you interested in the coaching services of Bart Gurley, he's got maverickrealitynetwork.com. Is that what it is?
That's it.
Maverickrealitynetwork.com.
MaverickRealtyNetwork.com.
We're going to have it posted in our YouTube video, so we'll make sure you guys have access to that as well. For those out there that are interested in some of the trainings and things that I have available, I will have a website included as part of my podcast, and it's on I'll have it posted soon. Right now, I'm in the middle of revamping it and getting it recreated and back out there. So by the
Dude,
time
can I
this
say
video is
something real quick,
created,
Shaune?
what's
You
that?
did. I want everybody to know that the reason you and I click, you're doing an amazing job. Like I love what you're doing with real estate success, DFW. Like I love what you're about, and like I say, I just think that your audience is they need to keep you at the top of the list. Good stuff.
Well, I appreciate it, Bart. I do. So that, and I've got, plenty of events and stuff you guys can be a part of coming out to my office. Most of them are free. Some of them are CEs, so we have to charge for those. But I've done a really good job of trying to create opportunities for everyone to grow in their business under those three principles: sustainable, duplicatable, and at little to no cost. I think if we can stay in those boundaries, we can really build an effective business. But until next time, for those that have not subscribed, please subscribe to my podcast. It is on the Real Estate Success DFW channel, and add any comments or likes, and I appreciate you. Until next week, have a high performance week.
That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.